Hi, kiddos. Welcome to Grandpa Ken and Barkley's Reading Room. We're really having fun here. As you can tell, I'm never alone. I've got all kinds of friends. And today we're going to read about another one of my friends, one that I've had just forever and ever. It's Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were four little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sand bank underneath the root of a very big tree. Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there, and he was taken to a zoo, said Mrs. McGregor. See the little ones? She doesn't want to lose any of them, right? Now run along and don't get into mischief. I'm going out. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the woods to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. See, she's going out. She's got her basket and she's going out, huh? Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down to the lane to gather blackberries. Rabbits love blackberries. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First, he ate some lettuce and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. He was in Mr. McGregor's, I know, Bluey, that's terrible. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. He's just walking through Mr. McGregor's. Look at him. Is he going to get in trouble, huh? His mom told him to stay out. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages, but he jumped up and he ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling him out, "Stop, thief, stop, stop!" And he's waving his rake trying to hit Peter. Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. Uh-oh, he was really going to be in trouble when he told his mom all this. After losing him on 4 legs, and he ran faster and faster, so that I think he might have gotten away altogether if he had not unfortunately ran into a gooseberry net and got caught up by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. See, he got caught. Yeah, I know, Barkley. He did bad, huh? Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Try harder, you can do it. The sparrows were really helping. But Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve, which is like a big screen, which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind. Uh-oh. And rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not been so much water in it. Oh no, look at, he got into a water can. Yeah, rabbits normally don't like to be in the water, do they? Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. He began to turn them over, carefully looking under each. He was looking for Peter. Oh no. Presently, Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. And he tried to put his foot on Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 plants. The windows were no too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. Whew, he went back to work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go home. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a time, he began to wander about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around, looking for anything he could know where he was at. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She could only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. It was just too much. He was afraid. He'd been scared. If Mr. McGregor caught him, he'd probably send him to the zoo. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought, it's the best way to go without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Billy. They didn't know. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch, scritch, scritch, scritch. Peter scattered underneath the bushes, but presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Ooh, now what, Peter? Peter got down very slowly and very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along the straight walk behind some black currant bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter didn't care by now. He slipped underneath that gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. He'd made it. Mr. McGregor hung the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to frighten blackbirds. Oh no, they used his clothes and his shoes. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him until he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of his rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made him some chamomile tea, and she gave him a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. Yuck, I've had to take that. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. See, if you do the wrong things and you don't listen to your grown-ups and you get in trouble, it can be dangerous. I don't think you'll end up in a zoo, but it's dangerous, so just be careful. Don't go where you're not supposed to. Look around, be aware. Grandpa Ken's reading time is to have fun. You guys, come on back. We've got Bluey in the library. We got Park Patrol. We're having all kinds of fun. Come back and join us.